Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here again. Uh-oh, did I bump something here? There we go. This is what I have. This is mine. All right. So today, yes, as Tammy said, we do have our status update for our 2023 internal audit plan, the wrap-up of everything that we had for fiscal 2023. And we also have a proposed plan for our 2024 fiscal year. Starting off, we'll cover our report over our follow-up procedures for purchasing. So we did in 2022 have an internal audit over purchasing. We had 3 total findings, and so we followed up on all 3 of those findings. So I'm happy to come back to you and report today that all 3 of those have been remediated. So you'll see on our table here, 1 moderate and 2 low, all were remediated. The purchasing department put forth the effort and made sure that they were remediated. Those 3 findings were over vendor performance monitoring, and having policies and processes in place to look for split purchases. So that would be like if you have a $500 threshold, making sure that you didn't have two $300 purchases that were for the same item to get through that approval barrier. And then also vendor file maintenance and vendor file completion. All 3 of those were remediated, and we had management focused on all those issues, addressed those. We did also perform a little bit of consultative work as part of our follow-up. Part of this in recognition that the ERP system at the college is changing and different modules over time are being implemented. So we did a couple things as part of that. We helped and we consulted a little bit on escalation procedures. So when those, on finding 2, those serial or split sequential purchases, when something like that is potentially identified, what should be the appropriate escalation procedure for the college to then go and start asking questions and reporting up chain of command. So we did consult on that. We also, as part of vendor performance monitoring, we did help provide some best practices and some frameworks based on state standards and what other community colleges are doing. So we helped with that. And then as part of the implementation of the new ERP, one of the things that we are on standby for and ready to further consult on is just automating some of the other procedures. We have some of these things, vendor performance monitoring, potential split sequential purchases that could be automated. All the controls are in place. The control structure is complete with these remediation efforts, but some of it's manual. And so when the new ERP system implementation for purchasing rolls around, I know that we will probably be asked a few things, and so we're ready to further consult on how some of these processes and procedures could be further automated through a new ERP that would allow a little bit more efficient operations, require some less manpower and less manual lift to have the same quality internal control structure. So that is our report over purchasing and the follow-ups over purchasing. Any questions?
Committee, any questions for?
Great job.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Congratulations, thank you, Mr. Trecker.
We also are in the midst of completing everything for the audit of the bursar's office. So we had that on our 2023 plan. The work has been completed. We did actually, on Monday, we had a exit meeting with the personnel and staff in the bursar's office. You'll see here the scope included everything from daily receipts and deposits, a cashiering function, which includes credit cards, cash handling, student accounting, and all the reconciliations through the daily point of sale system and the accounts receivable. We have completed that audit. Again, we had our exit meeting on Monday to go over all the findings with staff. And from a summary results, we will have a few findings. And those relate to really just consistency and implementation and documentation of the performance of controls. We didn't identify any glaring issues or errors, but there is a lot of opportunities or a few opportunities to fine-tune and just tighten up the documentation around the performance of the controls. And so while I don't have a report for you today because we only met Monday on the findings, I wanted to be able to present to you a full report that included management's responses. And so I needed to give staff time to do that. But I can confidently come to you and say that from an overall assessment, if you recall, we have strong, satisfactory, and unsatisfactory as our report ratings. We will be issuing a satisfactory rating over the internal audit for the bursar's office, and you'll see the three objectives, objective A being design of controls, objective B being the effectiveness of the execution of controls, and objective C being user access. We'll be able to issue a satisfactory rating for all of those. And then for our upcoming board meeting, you'll have a full copy of the report in enough time in advance so you can see all the details behind those. Again, just not ready to fully disclose all those today because I want you to have a full picture that includes management's response for that audit. But overall, like I said, it's more about documentation, tuning up and tightening down some of the documentation, and there were no, large glaring errors or anything we found from a substantive point of view. It was all documentation based. Any further questions there?
Any questions? Okay, great.
So we have two other pieces, internal audit consultation over safety and security. So we did have on this year, on fiscal 2023, a plan for safety and security, and that was an audit advisory consultative effort. Just given where it fell in the time of year and some of the other things going on with the standing up to the police department and a few of those things that I know you're all aware of, we did postpone that and reschedule that to fiscal year 2024. And so we have had a planning meeting with Tammy and her team and the team over safety and security. And we have started that. We've got a document request list out and are working through some of those issues. But those key functions and sub-processes that we're going to focus on now in fiscal 2024 are security compliance and reporting, emergency error management and incident response, and then some policies and procedures around the police department. Part of that is going to be the emergency operations plan, which I think is expected to come to you here in the near future. So there will be some consulting around that, but we're starting that now, the end of this month and through October, and that will be on the proposed 2024 plan, just based on where we're at with the audit. So that's a status for you. There's nothing really there to report, but I will open for any questions if you have any regarding the safety and security advisory that we're performing.
I do have a question. I apologize if this is in the detail. It's been a full Del Mar week for a couple of weeks now. Does this include the community notification and how, in the incident response, does this include that element of it in what you're doing, or is it just incident command and what happens from an operational standpoint?
When you say the community, are you talking about
Community notifications, media relations, social media? How does the community become notified and or informed or activated if necessary, or told to stand down or shelter in place, whatever the case may be?
That'll be part of the emergency management and incident response. So yes, that would be included.
Yep. And as a matter of fact, yesterday, the entire executive team, I think there was 30 of us. Incident management team, which includes the 30 or so of us, met at length in conjunction with Corpus Christi Police Department and ran tabletops scenarios just yesterday, which included communications and so forth. And in real life fashion, as happens, people are absent, and our new vice president was not able to be there because he was not feeling well. So there are some real things going on, some very, very difficult conversations, and we spent the better part of the day together at Oso Creek campus running tabletop scenarios, and as a major part of that, communications and so forth to the community, to the internal and to the external audiences were a big part of that, and we were being coached by Deputy Chief Billy Breedlove on all of that.
I just wanted to know how much your audit goes into those kinds of pieces as well, because in the industry, there's beginning to be some really good best practices and training and those kinds of things around the external communications, not the
Right.
incident command communications, but the external communications.
Right, no, and that's part of the overall incident response
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
Communicating, especially when you're dealing at a institution of higher education, you have a lot of interested stakeholders. And so having that and how you manage the communications, who's responsible, what gets sent, when, how, all those things would be included in that.
We've taken
That
note,
scope.
we've made note of that, Madam Chair, and so we will bring that back and take a deeper dive there.
Yes. Any other questions? All right. We also have the construction management. That's our advisory consultation. We've been working through all the edits. We did have all the edits that we are assisting with on the policies, the procedures over construction management should address and at least partially remediate all the findings. Again, we are in the process of getting that closed out and reporting. We've had some team members who've had, family medical emergencies and stuff that's delayed us a little bit. But we will have that for the upcoming October 3rd board meeting, and we'll have a status on those that will at least address from a policy and procedure standpoint, address all the findings so that there is positive movement forward to a partial remediation of those findings. There are 8 of those findings. Just if you see on the last bullet point there, those SOPs will address all 8 of those findings. Any questions there? No? All right. So our last status as part of overall audits is we did perform follow-up procedures over information security. We do have that report. I can tell you here in open session that there was progress made towards remediating all of the items. Many of those are completely remediated. We do have a few that will remain open, and we will continue to follow up those on fiscal year 24. We do have copies of that report here for you to review in closed session, and we can discuss all the detail of those matters in closed session. And that is because it's information security related, why we don't discuss those in open session. There's an exemption in the Texas Public Meetings Act for that.
Okay, at this time, we're going to go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, consultation with legal counsel, Texas Government Code 551.076, deliberation regarding security devices and audits, and Texas Government Code 551.089, deliberation regarding security devices or audits. Okay. The time is Apple time 2:16. All right, we've come out of closed session at 2:36. And would you please continue?
The PowerPoint back up, please. There we go. All right, so the last thing we have to present is the fiscal year 2024 proposed internal audit plan. So we are there again. It's time for a New Year's plan. Previously, we presented a 3-year plan. This is the third part of that 3-year plan. We do have some proposed changes, though, based on the rescheduling of the safety and security consulting and advisory project to fiscal year to this current fiscal year. So you'll see the top line here is where we're proposing that to be moved from the 23 plan into the 24 plan. Because of that move, and also because of where the college is in the new implementation of the new ERP, to essentially move that one out to fiscal year 2025 on a tentative basis, so that we have a total of 4 audits for fiscal year 2024. Again, moving the one from 23 into 24 and the one from 24 out to 25. because they won't be ready for the audit of the ERP. It won't be fully installed and ready to be audited yet. So with that, the proposed plan would be safety and security advisory, accounts payable and disbursements audit. We have performed that one several years ago, as well as financial aid. Those have been audited by us previously. I think it's been well over 4 years since we've done both of those. And then one that we've never audited before, which is institutional research and reporting. We haven't audited here before. And then the follow-ups for the information security for the remaining open findings there, the bursar's office and payroll, which are all audits from this year. And then our project management, we will do a larger risk assessment update to create another multi-year plan, and that'll be at the end of the fiscal year on 2024. So that is our proposed internal audit plan. As a reminder, we do have an annual internal audit report that we'll be bringing to the full board again on October, but this plan will be incorporated into part of that, so I wanted to be able to share that with the audit committee today for your questions and comments.
I have a question about the institutional research and reporting audit. Is there a standard? Tell me what you're auditing there. I'm just curious because we've never done it before and the rest are pretty straightforward, but what are we auditing?
Institutional research and reporting, it's where a lot of when you're reporting to the co-board, when the college responds to various, so U.S. News and World Report, they send out their surveys, they do all, so that is the point where the college aggregates all the data. Beyond just aggregating data and compiling reports, there's often a lot of research that has to go in to make sure, did we get this classification right? Did we get our contact hours right? Did we make all the right adjustments? And so it's really about that process by which that department goes and responds to request data inquiries, and then there's a lot of statutory reporting that has to come out that will be covered under that. And it's really about the completeness and the accuracy and the quality of the reporting,
Okay.
and the internal controls around that data and how it's reported.
So both at the state and federal level, whoever requires reporting, okay.
That is correct.
Mike, I guess my other question to Dr. Escamilla would be, with the changes related to outcomes-based funding and House Bill 8, knowing that the co-board is going to spend the next year or so, a couple of years, updating their data gathering, obviously some of what we may be talking about isn't in place yet, but you're going to talk about what is historic, you're not really going to worry about any of the newness of House Bill 8 and the implementation there. This is really going to be all about what is historic reporting information?
We're going to be looking at the process by which the people who complete those tasks ensure it's complete and accurate. So it's not necessarily what's reported or the reports themselves. So you're talking about the changes and what information is reported. We're going to talk about how they ensure the data quality of the reporting. And so it's more about that process. We like to say we audit processes, not people. And so we're going to audit the process of how that data is aggregated, accumulated, interrogated, and then reported, so that we know that it's complete and accurate, and the college has confidence that the data that's being sent out is good data.
If I can just add a little bit more to that, we had a meeting yesterday with the Business Advisory Council and TAC staff members. There are people of committees being stood up to address exactly what you're talking about. And as such, we have a nominee from our school from our college to serve on that the ongoing standing committee. I don't think it's been named just yet, those selected for that. So you are thinking exactly what I was thinking. It's going to the processes will be audited. The overlay of the different types of metrics will be a separate process. What I wanted to also say was we've been audited on a fairly regular basis by the Texas Higher Education, by the state auditor's office. They would come in and they would check our numbers, contact hours for grants and other things like that. So it's a fairly routine process that I want y'all to know that our team is used to. Slightly different here, but all of it's all related in terms of compliance and preparing our numbers, because these numbers are how we, one, represent ourselves to the state and also get paid.
Yeah. Other questions?
Okay,
All right. Well, thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that the committee forward this to the full board for consideration with our recommendation to approve.
Second.
We got a motion to present a recommendation to the board for approval. There's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we need public comment? Okay. Is there anybody in the public that wants to make, before final vote, any comments?
Appears to be none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right. Then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we voted unanimously to present it to the board for approval. Okay, next item is calendaring. I think that we discussed, we're looking at having a follow-up audit meeting before our December meeting, is that correct? We're looking at November the 13th at 2 o'clock. Carl, can you check your calendar? I think we've already checked ours. Pretty flexible. All right.
You're flexible.
How about staff? Is there any issues?
It's good with me, and then Dan with Weaver said that that's good for his calendar,
It's good for his calendar.
because he'd be coming.
Perfect. So that's going to be our next audit committee meeting is November 13th at 3. Correct?
2. I think they said 2.
At 2 o'clock, I'm sorry. At 2 o'clock. It's a Monday, right? 2 o'clock. All right.
Thank you.
Any further business? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you.